This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत, झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत, झूमेगा भारत. Hello everybody, wishing you all a very happy Independence Day. आज़ादी की अमृत महोत्सव की बहुत बहुत बधाई हो. We are celebrating 75 years of Indian independence. It's a great occasion for us to celebrate. And soon following the Independence Day is also the festival season. The Indian festival season kickstarts, like I mentioned in my last session of Storytellers Cafe. So we are celebrating Janmashtami on Storytellers Cafe this 19th. I think Janmashtami was the 19th, and this segment will come on Sunday. So wishing you all a very happy Janmashtami. Now, friends, you know I'm your host, Usha Venkatraman. I host Storytellers Cafe on Bharat FM. Bharat FM is a Cincinnati-based radio station which has been bringing wonderful programs for the last 2 years and a couple of months. Storytellers Cafe has completed 2 years, and this is our third season. I bring you storytellers from across the world, Indians who are storytellers, and give them a global platform. It's been wonderful to showcase storytellers, and today too, I have a guest. You've met her before. She is Sonia Bareja. Sonia was with us celebrating the festival of Diwali. So we decided, friends, that let's do the festival season together for you, because it's wonderful when I have an enthusiastic storyteller who tells me I would love to do or celebrate all the festivals on Storytellers Cafe. And I said, why not? Because I just need somebody to give me that little prompt, and then I take it off. So today we are celebrating Janmashtami, and Sonia Bareja, my guest tonight, has moved to Lisbon, Portugal. She was based in Delhi when you met her last Diwali, end of October, beginning of November. And Sonia has now moved to Portugal. We'll talk to her about her life in Portugal, how it is, and what kind of stories she is telling to the Portuguese, the Spanish people who reside there. I know that Europe is thriving. There is a thriving storytelling industry. So I just want to mention that India's deep ancient culture and tradition goes back, way back, long ago, to the beginning of the Yuga. So stories from our ancient lore have always kept us mesmerized. They always convey a message. And as I mentioned, every story has a festival. And it's wonderful to bring alive that story so that we can connect with the, I would say, the Gen Z and the millennials. Because I don't know whether the ancient tradition of grandparents telling stories to the grandchildren still continues. Of course, it does in some families, but in metro cities, I don't know whether this tradition still continues. Hopefully it continues. But Storytellers Cafe brings these stories alive. And it's a great pleasure for me to collaborate with Sonia Bareja from Portugal. And I'm going to bring her on screen, and then I'll give you a little introduction about Sonia. Sonia, welcome to Storytellers Cafe. How are you?
Thank you so much, Usha. And I'm doing fine. As always, it's a pleasure to be with you at Storytellers Cafe.
Absolutely. Sonia, when in my introduction, I was talking about how India is a unique country, enjoys a diversity of culture. traditions, regional histories, languages, lifestyles. So we all celebrate festivals in different ways. So similarly, Janmashtami is celebrated in the north differently, in the south differently, and I guess in the west and the east. And that's the beauty of Indian festivals. We see the varied hues, colors, food and celebrations. What do you say?
Oh, absolutely. And that is why India is known as a country with such rich heritage and culture. So, one reason is also because the way we celebrate our festivals. So, it's beautiful.
Yes, Sonia, as I know that you're from the north. So you lived in Delhi, and now, of course, you've moved to Europe. And I'm from the south, though I live in Mumbai. So my uh, celebrations are very, very colored by what we do in southern India, like drawing the footsteps of Lord Krishna, since we're talking about Janmashtami. So we do it, we call it kolam. We do it with rice flour. We kind of blend it in the mixie with water, and then we draw it with the hand. So it's a beautiful tradition of, we believe at midnight, Krishna, the baby Krishna, enters our house. And we cook different foods, sweets and savories, and offer. And of course, the puffed rice, which is very well known all over India. That is something like a prasad that you offer. Is there any specific way that in the north it's celebrated?
Oh yes, what happens in North is that most of the households get this little deity of Lord Krishna, which is called as Laddu Gopal, which is the baby Krishna, like you said. And if you already have it, then you actually take it off from the asana on which Laddu Gopal is sitting, and you actually put it on a little jhula, a little swing, which is women. Many years ago, women would actually weave the jhula at home. Now, obviously, we get decorated jhulas, and it's become like a mini business where the beautifully decorated jhulas are available in the market. So you take that Laddu Gopal and you put it on that jhula, and he stays there for 6 days. So in North, I don't know about the other regions, but we celebrate Janmashtami for not one day, but for 6 days. So it starts at 12 p.m. on the day of the Janmashtami as per Panchang, and it goes till the sixth day, which is called as the Chati. So we celebrate the Chati, and that is when we take off Laddu Gopalji from the jhula and put him back on the asana.
Wonderful. Sonia, I never knew this. This is the beauty of inviting storytellers, because there's so much one gets to learn. I mean, I have learned so much. It has really enriched my, bag full of tradition and culture, the knowledge about India, because, mm, I'm more familiar with what happens in southern India. And living in Bombay, of course, it is a melting pot of culture. So you do see it being celebrated, but I didn't know it was celebrated for 6 years. That's wonderful. Sonia, I'm going to give a little introduction about you to my guests just to refresh their memory. So, friends, my guest tonight, as you know, is Sonia Bareja from Lisbon, Portugal. It's a great honor to have her back in Storytellers Cafe and to collaborate with her and do all the Indian festivals this year. So we'll see more of Sonia this year. So Sonia Bareja is the co-founder and chief story facilitator at StoryKnack, a consulting and coaching firm which provides workshops plus programs to businesses and academia like schools, colleges, and universities. Sonia, an incisive professional with 20 years of varied experience, and after having worked with some top tier brands such as Wrigley, Samsung, Xerox, and Tupperware, is now a story coach, certified mindfulness practitioner, and facilitator. She has been storying across the globe in the realm of children, parents, and teachers. She likes to especially tell mythological and historical stories from India. Sonia delves in various projects around storytelling, for example, performance and business, creative writing for young adults, students, brand creative and content development for businesses. She also mentors young adults in the US around storytelling and creativity. Now, you can get in touch with Sonia. We'll be dropping about all her social media handles. On Facebook, Sonia can be contacted at StoryKnack, KNAC. And she's also known as Sonia Bareja .7 on Facebook. LinkedIn, her profile details will be definitely shared with you. On Instagram, she is, you can find her at StoryKnack, again KNACK, and she has a website which is www.storyknack.com. So we're very happy to have you, Sonia. Welcome once again to Storytellers Cafe.
Thank you so much, Usha. I'm really looking forward to tonight's session.
Yes. As you know that I started my career way back in 1996 with puppets. I became by default a puppeteer. I have very little formal training, and I decided that honestly, to have puppetry as my career is not uh, my path. More storytelling. So this was told to me by people who trained me in puppetry, and they said you're a better storyteller. So because it is a skill and you have to undergo rigorous training, it doesn't happen. And puppets are very different from Muppets, if you know. So puppets don't have a mouth that opens. It's only deft hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder movements. But I have some puppets here which I want to share for us viewers, which were created by me, actually helped by these wonderful women who are based in Jaipur, and they created this. So if you can see the screen, we have Vasudev, the father of Laddu Gopal, Krishna, and there he is, the dark-skinned Krishna. You know, this reminds me of Yashomati Maya se bole Nandalala, Radha kyun gori, मैं क्यों काला. And you know how his mother says, you're dark because you were born at midnight, and that's why you're dark. I mean, it's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Most of us Indians are familiar with it. I will go to the next slide. Here you can see the evil uncle Kamsa, and then Vasudev and Devaki, and little Krishna. You know, there are so many beautiful shlokas when I have these home kind of chamber music concerts, you know, Sonia. So one was, the song was Welcoming Krishna on Janmashtami, actually, which I hosted many years back. So it is like um, Krishnaya Govindaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankaja Maline Nama Pankajanetraya Pankajangriye Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Sarvam मम देव देवा नन्दबाल गोपाल दयालु हरे वृंदावन में बुला लो बुला लो बुला लो. So, friends, are you transported to Vrindavan? Because I am. I could actually feel my hair standing up. It's a beautiful shloka to invoke little Krishna into our homes. There you can see the serpent, which gives actually supports Krishna from the onslaught of the heavy rains as Vasudeva is taking him across the flooded Yamuna to Nan's house. Right? That's another story. All of us know about Krishna's story, his birth, and how he leaves the prison where his parents are imprisoned, and how Vasudeva, in the middle of the night, takes him to his cousin Nand. Right? So, Yashoda Maya and Nand. But we are not going to tell you that story. We have something different for us. So, Sonia, why don't you tell us as to what you have prepared for today, what you want to share?
First of all, Usha, I want to really thank you for this beautiful shloka. And you were so right that when I had my eyes closed and when I opened, I almost found myself in the city of Vrindavan. Because we all, as Indians, are so close to that one place because we know from our roots and from our rich heritage that Krishna is there, playing, being naughty, being mischievous, doing his what you call as leelas, and that's the reason why he's called as Leela Purushottam, and he's forgiven very easily by you, by me, by our mothers, by our daughters. So when we were discussing, Usha and I were discussing that let's celebrate Janmashtami, and we thought that most of the storytellers attempt to do the stories around the birth of Krishna, which is a wonderful story of a little snippet has been shared by Usha, and I'm sure she has intrigued amongst most of you that who was the serpent, why does he have 5 heads, who was Vasudeva, and why was he taking Krishna in that middle of the night? He was his own child. So these are wonderful stories. But tonight, for tonight's episode, Usha and I are here not to share the stories related with Krishna's birth, but we are here to share some of the experiential stories from the city of Vrindavan, or from where Krishna has spent a lot of his life path. But these are stories, and why I say experiential, क्योंकि ये कहानियां हैं अनुभव की, जिन्हें हमारे पूर्वजों ने, हमारे जो ग्रेट ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स थे, या उनसे पहले जो हमारे ग्रेट 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 ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स थे, उन्होंने अनुभव किया और उन्होंने डॉक्यूमेंट किया. तो ये कहानियां हमारी अपनी कहानियां हैं. हमारे अगर पूर्वजों ने उन्हें अनुभव किया, तो हम जब इन कहानियों को सुनते हैं तो वो कहानियां कहीं ना कहीं हम भी अनुभव करते हैं. तो आज अपनी कहानियों के दुनिया से उषा और मैं कुछ ऐसी ही अनुभव भरी दास्तानें, किस्से या कहानियां, जो भी आप कहना चाहते हैं, आप सबके साथ उन्हें साझा करने वाले हैं. So let's see what Usha has to start with.
Sonia, I thought I've taken enough screen space by singing. So let me listen to your story. And I have a very, like you say, it's a beautiful spiritual story, a story which teaches us mindfulness, as you are an experienced mindfulness coach. So the stage is yours.
ओके, थैंक यू उषा, थैंक यू सो मच. तो चलिए, उषा ने बहुत खूबसूरती से हमें वृंदावन में पहुंचा दिया है. और आई थिंक जो मेरे स्टोरी टेलर की दुनिया में जो मेरे ऑडियंस है, श्रोता हैं, वो जानते हैं कि मैं भारतीय कहानियां ज्यादातर अपनी मातृभाषा में कहना पसंद करती हूँ. उसका मतलब है कि मैं जो ये रिलीजियस टेल्स हैं, मिथोलॉजिकल टेल्स हैं, मैं कोशिश करती हूँ कि उसे हिंदी में ही सुनाऊँ। तो आज भी मैं अपने किस्से, अपनी कहानियाँ हिंदी भाषा में ही सुनाने वाली हूँ। और एज़ अ स्टोरी टेलर मेरा ये मानना है कि कहानियाँ भाषा की मोहताज वैसे भी नहीं होती। कहानियाँ तो सिर्फ़ और सिर्फ़ दिल से कही जाती हैं। तो आप किसी भी भाषा में कहिए, अगर आप दिल से सुना रहे हैं, तो वो किसी ना किसी के दिल को तो छू ही लेंगी। तो चलिए, उषा ने अपने श्लोक से बहुत खूबसूरती से हमें वृंदावन में पहुँचा दिया है। तो भारतीय संस्कृति में, भारतीय सभ्यता में वृंदावन का एक अलग ही महत्व है। बहुत अहम स्थान है ये हमारे हिंदू शास्त्र में, सनातन धर्म में। बल्कि यूँ कहें कि वृंदावन में स्थापित बांके बिहारी का जो मंदिर है, जहाँ बांके जी का विग्रह है, जो वहाँ साक्षात बांके बिहारी रहते हैं, एकमात्र पूरे विश्व में ऐसा मंदिर है, जहाँ पे आप लगातार बांके बिहारी के दर्शन नहीं कर सकते। हर 2 या ढाई मिनट में उनके आगे एक पर्दा कर दिया जाता है। अगर आप में से कुछ लोग वृंदावन गए हैं, तो आपने ये ज़रूर नोटिस किया होगा कि जब आप दर्शन कर रहे होते हैं, वहाँ खड़े होके सामने बांके जी के, तो वहाँ के गोसाईं या गोस्वामी जो जिन्हें हम पंडित जी भी कहते हैं, वो लगातार बांके जी के, कृष्ण जी के आगे एक पर्दा करते हैं ऐसे, हर 2 मिनट में। तो ऐसा इसलिए किया जाता है क्योंकि इसके पीछे भी एक अनुभव भरी दास्ताँ है। बहुत साल पहले अ, वृंदावन के पास एक जगह थी करौली। आज भी शायद किसी और नाम से वो जगह है मौजूद, बट ये बहुत साल पुरानी मैं आपको बात बता रही हूँ। तो वहाँ के जो राजा थे, वो बहुत ही अनन्य भक्त थे और उनकी जो रानी थी, वो भी उतनी ही असीम प्रेम भाव से कृष्ण की पूजा में लीन रहती थी। तो जब पहली बार उन्हें वृंदावन आकर बांके बिहारी जी के दर्शन करने का सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ, तो वो बहुत देर तक बांके बिहारी जी की विग्रह के आगे खड़ी रहीं और माना जाता है, सुना जाता है कि उनकी नज़रें, उनके नैन बांके बिहारी जी के नैन से इस तरह मिले और इस तरह का तालमेल उनका बैठा कि बहुत एक अचंभित बात हुई। खैर दर्शन करके रानी राजा के साथ वापस अपने महल लौट गईं और मानो ऐसे लौटी कि उनके तन, मन और हृदय में खुद बांके जी का वास था। उनकी आँखों में सिर्फ बांके जी ही घूमे जा रहे थे। खैर वो आकर अपने राजमहल में सो गईं और जब सुबह उठ के उन्होंने अपने मंदिर के कपाट खोले, अपने राजमहल के मंदिर के कपाट खोले, तो वो क्या पाती हैं वहाँ पर? वहां पे साक्षात वृंदावन से उठकर बांके जी का विग्रह स्थापित हो गया था। खैर ये देखते ही रानी की आंखों से झरझर आंसुओं की धारा बहने लगी और उधर जब वृंदावन में सुबह मंदिर के कपाट खोले गए और वहां से बांके जी का विग्रह नदारद था, यह देखकर पूरे शहर में बहुत ही उदासी छा गई। खैर वहां के गोसाई और वहां के जो पूर्वज गोस्वामी थे, वो बहुत दुविधा में पड़ गए। और इतने में ही रानी साहिबा करौली से ठाकुर जी का, बांके जी का विग्रह लेकर वहां आई क्योंकि उन्हें मालूम था कि बांके जी का स्थान वृंदावन में ही है। खैर विग्रह को पुनः वृंदावन के उसी मंदिर में स्थापित किया गया जहां हम उनके दर्शन आज भी करते हैं। पर उस दिन एक बात तय की गई, एक डिसीजन लिया गया कि बांके जी तो बहुत नटखट हैं, लीला पुरुषोत्तम हैं, अपनी लीलाएं रचते रहते हैं, तो कुछ ना कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा। ऐसा कुछ करना पड़ेगा कि इनके नैन ही किसी भक्त से ना मिल पाएँ। क्योंकि ये तो इतने नटखट हैं कि जिस भी भक्त से इनके नैन मिले, ये तो उसके साथ ही चल पड़ेंगे। और हम कहाँ-कहाँ से इनके हाथ पकड़कर, पैर पकड़कर, मनाकर सुझा-बुझाकर वापस लाएँगे। तो आज से ये निर्णय लेते हैं, ये ऐसा डिसीजन लेते हैं कि बांके जी की नज़रें, बांके बिहारी जी के नैन किसी भक्त से मिलने ही नहीं देंगे। और तब से बहुत सालों से ये प्रथा है वृंदावन के मंदिर में कि बांके जी के मंदिर में जब आप दर्शन कर रहे हैं विग्रह के, तो उनके सामने एक पर्दा है, जिसे हर 2 से ढाई मिनट में वो पर्दा आगे कर दिया जाता है। और ये उस प्रथा की पीछे छुपी कहानी थी। तो ऐसे ही कुछ मज़ेदार किस्से, अनुभव भरी कहानियाँ आज मैं और उषा आपके साथ साझा करने वाले हैं, इसी उम्मीद के साथ कि आपको बहुत मज़ा आएगा जन्माष्टमी का ये त्योहार हमारे साथ मनाते हुए।
What a lovely story, Sonia. I wish I could speak Hindi so fluently and in that impeccable language. You know, I think I have to, maybe that's something I can start to learn to speak Hindi fluently. मैं तो हिंदी जानती हूँ और बात भी कर सकती हूँ, पर इतना सुंदर नहीं जैसे आपने हमें कहानी सुनाया। जो सुंदरता है भाषा में, अगर आप भाषा बिल्कुल अच्छी तरह से जानते हैं, you're the mastery of the language, then the flow when you tell a story, it flows so beautifully. And that's the beauty of listening to a story told in faultless language, whether it is in English, whether it's in Hindi, Tamil, Marathi, or Gujarati. Right, Sonia? You
Yeah,
would agree with me. And
absolutely.
Indians are very good in the different languages that they speak and tell their stories.
Yeah, yeah. एब्सोल्युटली उषा, आई टोटली अग्री विद यू। बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने। और इसीलिए मैं हमेशा जहाँ स्टोरी टेलिंग सिखाती भी हूँ, सबसे मैं एक सेकंड, मैं यही बात करती हूँ सबसे कि कहानियां किसी भाषा की मोहताज नहीं होती। आपने ये लाइन बड़ी खूबसूरती से कही कि आप फ्लॉलेस लैंग्वेज में कहानी सुनाइए, और कहानी सुनाते समय हमें भाषा की पकड़ अगर है तो बहुत खूबसूरत है, अगर नहीं भी है तो भी आप कहानी सुनाइए। आई थिंक कहानियां किसी पे डिपेंडेंट नहीं है। वो आपकी
Yes.
बात सही है कि एक खूबसूरत भाषा में सुनाई गई कहानी वाकई ही सुनने में बहुत खूबसूरत लगती है। बट मैं हमेशा यही कहती हूँ कि अगर आपकी भाषा पे पकड़ नहीं भी है, अगर आप मराठी बोलते हैं, अगर आप अपनी लोकल लैंग्वेज में बात करते हैं, तो तहे दिल से उसी भाषा में कहानी सुनाइए। जिस भाषा में आपको कहानी सुननी पसंद है और जिस भाषा में आप कहानी सोचते हैं, आई थिंक आप उसी भाषा में अगर कहानी सुनाएंगे तो वो बहुत खूबसूरती से लोगों को आकर्षित करेगी।
Bilkul, Sonia. On this note, I wanted to ask you, since you've moved to Portugal and it's been a couple of months that you've been staying there in Lisbon, and you're very active as well, how do you think if you were to narrate this story in Hindi, how would your audience react to this?
Okay. Now, Hindi is a language which is not understood by many Western countries. But fortunately, Indians have made a mark in, I think, all across the globe. And so is true for Lisbon as well. So 40% of the population here is Indian community. So यहाँ पे तकरीबन 40 से 45% जो पॉपुलेशन है, खासकर लिस्बन की, वो भारतीय मूल के हैं, गुजरात से, पंजाब से, सदर्न पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया से। तो बहुत से ऐसे कम्युनिटीज हैं, और आपको ये जानकर काफी हैरानी होगी उषा, दैट वी हैव so many Hindu temples here in Lisbon. In fact, I am going to one of the temples, which is Lord Krishna's temple, on the 19th, and they have invited me to share stories and take the cultural part of India forward, because they met me last month. They saw some of my work and they lapped on it. They said that we want someone like you who can, take forward this rich culture and heritage of India. And half of them were Europeans, half of them were Portuguese. So Indian culture is so beautiful and so full of that stories of wit, stories of wisdom, and a lot. So everybody around the world wants to listen to the Indian cultural and the heritage. And irrespective of whether you tell it in Hindi or you tell it in English, they are ready to put a translator. They are only wanting people like you and me to come and share stories, irrespective of whatever language you choose, because they are very keen on listening to stories like Krishna stories, the stories of Lord Vishnu, and whatnot. But in any language you choose. So today, if you want to do a story in Tamil, or if you want to do a story in Marathi, they would welcome you with open arms, because they would arrange a translator. They would say that, don't worry on that, we'll have a translator, but you just tell us a story. So I'm very happy that I'm able to do this here, and will be able to do more of stories with local native people here. So this is looking very encouraging and promising.
Thank you, Sonia. What a wonderful way. So, for all the story people who are listening to Storytellers Cafe, you're watching Sonia Bareja, my guest tonight. This is a festival special, Janmashtami special, where we are both sharing stories about Krishna. Not the ones that we all know about his birth, but experiential stories, stories that offer, that show Krishna in a wonderful light, which we all know. So, one such story I have, and Sonia, may I share
Yes.
this a story? It's a beautiful story um, um, from the Mahabharata. You know, the scene is set in Kurukshetra. It is day 14 and Arjuna's greatest battle on this day. Here, the poet Vyasa informs us to avenge the death of Abhimanyu, his son. Arjuna moves towards Jayadratha, who is in the protective shield of the Padma formation, the lotus formation. Now, the lotus formation is protecting Jayadratha, who actually killed his son, who was instrumental in killing um, Abhimanyu. Drona is at the entrance to the formation. His silvery locks are streaming behind him, and his long white beard flowing in the wind. Drona, the invincible, the teacher of the Pandavas, stands like the granite sentinel. Krishna whispers to Arjuna, his Sabyasachi, and advises Arjuna to seek Drona's blessings, not to engage in war with Drona. How do you seek blessings in the middle of the battlefield? And how do you do it? So Arjuna is perplexed. Arjuna had style and panache. Krishna takes the chariot to within 10 feet of Drona. Arjuna and Drona stare, gaze at each other. Granite like faces, implacable. Jaws are clenched. Remember, they are in the battlefield, they are warriors. Brows are knitted in anger. Without warning, Arjuna very swiftly takes an arrow and shoots it towards Dronacharya, his guru, and follows it with another one. The arrow gracefully arcs high up and lands with a twang at Drona's feet. One arrow each on the inside of the big toe. Mark my words. One arrow on the inside of the big toe, each on the inside. So precise is Arjuna's aim that it nicks the skin at Drona's feet to draw one perfectly shaped drop of blood. Just then, Drona draws his arrow and shoots it towards Arjuna's forehead so swiftly that it grazes and nicks the skin just a teeny bit between his eyebrows, drawing a drop of blood. So the disciple has bowed to his teacher, and the teacher has blessed his disciple. Everyone is hushed into silence. Marvel at the skill of the young Arjuna and the mastery of the old invincible Drona.
Wow.
Another beautiful incident, and so well described, that how Arjuna takes his blessing from his great teacher Dronacharya. So that is the beauty of Krishna's stories, Sonia. There are so many things that teaches us, even in the midst of whatever calamity, difficulty that you're facing. And Krishna tells him, pause, Arjuna. You can't fight your teacher. And that wisdom, that is why, Krishna imparts such rich wisdom to us, and that we can use in our own lives, that we need to pause and take a step back, think clearly, and then move forward. So that was a small little episode from Mahabharata, but so profound.
Wow. No, you're right. It's so profound. I mean, look at it, Usha. It's just a little gesture. but the way it is narrated and the way it is being told, and you almost, when you're telling this little story, we almost could visualize it. The imagery you used in telling the story was so powerful that you could actually see that little tiny drop of blood on the feet of Drona, and then again that little same tiny drop of blood on the forehead of Krishna, which is a symbolic of the tilak that probably Drona bestowed on Arjun, which is so wonderful. So thank you so much for this such beautifully told story. And I think let's we can take this forward with more experiential tales. तो हम वृंदावन के आसपास ही रहने वाले हैं, तो महाभारत के कुरुक्षेत्र के युद्ध भूमि से चलिए आपको वापस ले चलती हूँ मथुरा, which is another small town very close to where Vrindavan is. वृंदावन जाने के लिए आपको मथुरा को पार करना ही पड़ता है। तो ये अगला जो किस्सा है, या यूं कहें एक दास्तां है, एक अनुभव की, और एक ऐसे अनुभव की जो बहुत साल पहले नहीं, बहुत लाखों साल पहले नहीं, कुछ 100 साल पहले या 500-700 साल पहले की दास्तां है। तो ये बहुत ही नजदीक हिस्ट्री में यूं कहें कि हुई ऐसी एक दास्तां है जो मैं आपको अब बयां करने जा रही हूँ। बात है मथुरा में रहने वाले एक बहुत ही अनन्य भक्त, कृष्ण के असीम भक्त सेठ जमुना दास की। सेठ जमुना दास मथुरा में पंडित जी के नाम से मशहूर थे, क्योंकि वो बहुत पूजा अर्चना करते थे और कृष्ण में उनकी भक्ति में ही लीन रहते थे। और उनका एक नियम था कि वो ताजे फूलों से बनी हुई माला अपने घर में स्थापित बांके बिहारी जी को अर्पित करते थे हर रोज। चाहे उन्हें वो फूल लेने के लिए खुद ही माली के पास जाना पड़े या फिर कहीं से भी ताजे फूल लाने पड़े, पर उनका ये नियम था कि वो ताजे फूलों से बनी हुई माला बांके बिहारी जी को अर्पित करते थे। तो इसी दिनचर्या के अकॉर्डिंग एक शाम वो टहलते-टहलते माली के पास जा रहे थे और तभी उनकी नज़र एक माली पर पड़ी जो बहुत ही अलग तरीके के, बहुत ही खूबसूरत गुलाबों से एक माला पिरो रहा था। पंडित जी को लगा कि बस मुझे तो अपने बांके के लिए यही माला चाहिए। ये खूबसूरत फूल मुझे आज बांके जी को अर्पित करने ही। इसी सोच की उधेड़-बुन में जमुना दास जी माली के पास पहुँचते हैं और माली से कहते हैं कि ये फूलों की एक माला कितने में दोगे? तो माली ढलते हुए सूरज को देखता है और कहता है, पंडित जी, शाम होने वाली है, मेरे ये फूल और कोई नहीं लेगा, तो आप ऐसा कीजिए, ये पूरी की पूरी फूल और माला आप 4 पैसे में ले लीजिए। अब आप हैरान मत होइए 4 पैसे, क्योंकि मैंने कहा कि ये कुछ 6, 700, 800 साल पहले की बात है, तो तब पैसे में ही लेन-देन होता था, रुपया नहीं आया था और करोड़ों और लाखों की तो बात ही कोई सोच नहीं सकता। तो आप सोचिए कि माली ने अपना पूरा का पूरा फूलों का जमघट और खूब सारी मालाएँ 4 पैसे में देने का निश्चय किया। पंडित जी ने कहा, चलिए ठीक है, आप ये सारे फूल और माला बाँध दीजिए। आज ऐसा करेंगे कि मैं बांके जी का इन्हीं फूलों से खूबसूरत बंगला सजाऊँगा। अब जो लोग वृंदावन गए हैं वो बंगले के शब्द को समझते हैं, क्योंकि वृंदावन में अक्सर ठाकुर जी, बांके जी को फूलों के बंगले में रखा जाता है। फूलों का श्रृंगार किया जाता है और ऐसा माना जाता है कि बांके जी को सबसे ज़्यादा प्यारा अ, फूल है। अगर आप उन्हें सच्चे भाव से फूल भी अर्पित कर दें, तो बांके जी बहुत प्रसन्न हो जाते हैं। तो ख़ैर वापस आते हैं जमुना दास जी पे। जमुना दास जी ने वो सब फूल 4 पैसे में खरीदने की बात पक्की कर ली। अभी उनका कुछ लेन-देन चल ही रहा था कि बाहर की सड़क से राजा अकबर का काफ़िला जा रहा था और राजा अकबर आगरा जा रहे थे, तो उन्होंने मथुरा में थोड़ा विश्राम करने का निर्णय लिया। अब राजा अकबर का काफ़िला बहुत बड़ा था, तो वहाँ सब लोग कुछ ठहर गए, कुछ ठंडा पानी पीने के लिए, और इतने में ही अकबर का एक खास नौकर, एक खास सेवक वहाँ टहलता हुआ आ गया, जहाँ माली था। जब उस सेवक की नज़र उन फूलों पर पड़ी, तो उसे मन किया कि ये फूल क्यों ना वो राजा अकबर के लिए ले ले और राजा अकबर को ये फूलों की माला भेंट करे। तो वो माली के पास आया और उसने माली से पूछा कि कितने में दोगे? माली ने बड़े विनम्र भाव से हाथ जोड़ते हुए उन्हें कहा कि भाई साहब, आप थोड़ा लेट हैं। ये सब फूल तो मैं पंडित जी को 4 पैसे में दे चुका हूँ। आप किसी और माली के पास जाइए। अब वो राजा का सेवक था, वो बड़ा भड़कते हुए बोला कि तुम जानते हो, तुम किससे बात कर रहे हो? तुम्हें पता है मैं कौन हूँ? तो माली ने उसी विनम्रता के साथ पुनः उसे आग्रह करते हुए कहा, अरे भैया, आप जो भी हैं, आस-पास बहुत से माली हैं, आप किसी के पास भी जाकर फूल ले लीजिए। ये फूल मैं पंडित जी को 4 पैसे में दे चुका हूँ। खैर वो राजा का सेवक काफ़ी तड़कता भड़कता हुआ बोला कि 4 पैसे? चलिए, मैं आपको इन सब फूलों के रुपया दूँगा। उस ज़माने में 1 रुपए की कीमत तौबा तौबा बहुत ज़्यादा थी, बहुत ज़्यादा। जितनी शायद अभी लाखों की भी नहीं होगी, तब शायद 1 रुपए की कीमत थी उस समय। तो ये देखकर पंडित जी भी आश्चर्यचकित रह गए और माली भी आश्चर्य में पड़ गया। उसने कहा, तुम हो कौन? तब मुस्कुराते हुए और बड़े भड़कीले अंदाज में उस सेवक ने कहा कि मैं इस पूरे हिंदुस्तान के बादशाह का सेवक हूँ। अब तुम्हें पता चला कि मैं कौन हूँ? खैर, ये सुनते ही पंडित जी के मन में एक भाव आया और उन्होंने उसकी तरफ देखते हुए कहा कि अगर तुम हिंदुस्तान के बादशाह के सेवक हो, तो मैं इस पूरे जगत के बादशाह का सेवक हूँ। मैं पूरे अनंत कोटि ब्रह्मांड के बादशाह का सेवक हूँ। ये सुनकर सेवक थोड़ा-सा सकपका गया। उसे लगा, अकबर के अलावा और कौन बादशाह है? तो वो पूछ बैठा कि तुम्हारा कौन बादशाह है? तो पंडित जी ने बड़े विनम्रता से मुस्कुराते हुए कहा, मैं कृष्ण भगवान की बात कर रहा हूँ। खैर, ये सुनते ही वो मुस्कुरा दिया और उसने कहा, चलिए फटाफट से ये 1 रुपए में आप मुझे बाँध दीजिए ये फूल और ये मालाएँ। पंडित जी को बहुत खराब लगा कि ये फूल तो मैं अब बांके जी को ही चढ़ाऊंगा। उन्होंने कहा कि तुम 1 रुपए में खरीद रहे हो, मैं 10 रुपए दूंगा। माली बहुत चक्का रह गया। 10 रुपए? उसने तो शायद अपनी पूरी जिंदगी में 10 रुपए कहीं नहीं देखे थे। तो वो बहुत ही आश्चर्य में पड़ गया। इधर पंडित जी ने 10 रुपए का मोल लगाया और अकबर के सेवक ने 50 रुपए का मोल लगा दिया। तो यहाँ फूलों की बोली शुरू हो गई। खैर 50 रुपए सुनते ही माली के सर से और बदन से पसीना टपकने लगा। पंडित जी तो भाव विभोर, अब तो उन्होंने जैसे ठान ही लिया था कि ये फूल अगर चढ़ेंगे तो मेरे बांके पर ही चढ़ेंगे। उन्होंने कहा कि मैं 100 रुपए दूंगा, बिना ये सोचे समझे कि वो 100 रुपए लाएंगे कहां से। खैर, जब बात 100 रुपए तक आ पहुंची तो अकबर का सेवक कुछ घबराया। उसे अचानक लगा कि वो इतने पैसे में एक फूल माला खरीद रहा है, कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि बात उल्टी पड़ जाए और अकबर खुश होने की बजाय उसे नौकरी से ही निकाल दे। उसने हाथ जोड़कर पंडित जी से कहा कि पंडित जी, बस मैं और नहीं दे सकता, आप 100 रुपए में ये फूल और ये माला दोनों रख लीजिए। और ये कहकर वो वहां से चला गया। अब माली ने बड़े सक पकाते हुए पंडित जी की तरफ देखा और कहा, पंडित जी, बात तो अब 100 रुपए पे तय हो गई है। अब बताइए कि ये फूल और ये माला क्या बांध दूं? पंडित जी मुस्कुराते हुए बड़े खुश मिजाज भाव से आंखों में चमक लिए हुए उन्होंने विनम्रता से जवाब दिया, हाँ हाँ, क्यों नहीं, ये फूल तो मेरे बांके पे ही चढ़ेंगे। तुम इसे बांधो और मैं 100 रुपए का इंतजाम करके आता हूँ। तुरंत पंडित जी सेठ जमुना दास नगर के बहुत बड़े सेठ वापस अपने घर जाते हैं और जितना भी उनके घर में चांदी, सोना, जेवरात, पुराने जमाने में लोग चांदी के बर्तन इस्तेमाल करते थे, उन्होंने सब बर्तन उठाए, अपने घर में जितना सोना था सब लिया और सब कुछ गिरवी रखकर 100 रुपए का इंतजाम किया। और वो 100 रुपए देकर उन्होंने वो माला और फूल खरीदी और बड़े ही प्रसन्नता से घर आए और बांके जी का बंगला तैयार किया और उन्हें वो फूलों की माला पहनाई। इधर वो फूल चढ़ा रहे थे और इधर वो माला पहना रहे थे और वहां वृंदावन में गोसाई जी जब कृष्ण जी की पूजा कर रहे थे, अचानक से क्या देखते हैं कि कृष्ण का सर झुक गया है। बांके बिहारी जी का सर झुक गया है, क्योंकि जो वृंदावन में विग्रह है कृष्ण जी का, वो साक्षात कृष्ण है वहां पे। वो कोई मूर्ति नहीं है या कोई पत्थर नहीं है, वो साक्षात कृष्ण भगवान है वहां पे। और गोसाई जी क्या देखते हैं कि कृष्ण का सर झुक गया है। ये देखकर गोसाई जी बड़े हैरान और परेशान हो जाते हैं और तुरंत हाथ जोड़कर विनम्रता से बांके बिहारी से प्रश्न करते हैं कि हे प्रभु, मुझसे क्या अनर्थ हो गया? यहाँ पर हम सब में से मौजूद किसी से क्या अनर्थ हो गया कि आपने यूं सर झुका लिया? बताइए प्रभु। और ये कहते कहते गोसाई जी की आंखों से आंसू की धारा बहे जा रही है। लेकिन कृष्ण ने नीचे झुकाई हुई गर्दन से ही जवाब दिया कि आज ये गर्दन एक भक्त के भाव से झुक गई है। इस गर्दन पर एक भक्त के भाव का इतना भार है कि मैं ये गर्दन उठा ही नहीं पा रहा हूं। गोसाई जी को कृष्ण जी का इतना ही कहना था तो उनकी आंखों के सामने पंडित जमनादास से जमनादास का और माली का पूरा किस्सा उनकी आंखों के सामने आ गया। उन्होंने हाथ जोड़ते हुए पुनः आग्रह किया कि हे प्रभु, आप बताइए क्या करें कि आप वापस अपनी गर्दन ऊपर कर सकें। कृष्ण ने झुकी हुई गर्दन से ही जवाब दिया कि जाओ और सेठ जमुना दास ने जितना इस भाव पे खर्च किया है, कम से कम उसे दुगना देकर आओ और बाइज्जत उन्हें यहाँ लेकर आओ मेरे मंदिर में, ताकि मैं उनके चरण स्पर्श कर सकूं। आप देखिए इस बात की महिमा को, इस बात के भाव को, कि भगवान स्वयं ये कह रहे हैं अपने गोस्वामी से कि मेरे भक्त को लेकर आओ कि मैं उनके चरण स्पर्श कर सकूं। और ये गर्दन तो तभी ऊंची होगी जब सेठ जमनादास यहाँ आएंगे और मैं उन्हें चरण स्पर्श करूंगा। खैर गोसाई जी वापस गए मथुरा। उन्होंने जमनादास जी को बहुत सी चीजें भेंट दी, उनके पैसे भेंट स्वरूप वापस दिए और सेठ जमनादास जी को बाइज्जत वृंदावन लाया गया और बांके जी के दर्शन किए उन्होंने। और तब अगली सुबह वृंदावन में कृष्ण जी ने अपनी गर्दन स्वयं ऊपर की, जिस तरह से वो है आज भी हम देखते हैं। तो ये एक और किस्सा, ये एक और कहानी जो आज भी मैं आपको जब सुना रही हूँ तो मेरी आंखों में हल्की नमी है और जिसे गूज़ बम्प्स कहते हैं, रोंगटे खड़े हो जाना कहते हैं। तो ये कुछ ऐसी अनुभव भरी कहानियाँ हैं, जिन्हें आज भी हम या हमारे बच्चे सुनते हैं, जब सुनाते हैं हम अपने बच्चों को। तो बहुत ही एक खूबसूरती का एहसास, एक ऐसा एहसास होता है कि कृष्ण हमारे आस-पास, हमारे कन-कन में, हमारी साँसों में, हमारे आमने-सामने हर जगह मौजूद है।
What a beautiful story and so well narrated, Sonia. Truly, of course, Krishna, the Laddu Gopal is here with us. We've already invited him to Storytellers Cafe, and he loves to listen to his stories. And on that note, I'm tempted to sing this Marwadi song, which I learned and taught the little ones. I used to conduct shloka classes and teach them shlokas and bhajans. So, this is just giving you a little snippet. हे गिरिधर गोपाल लाल तू आना मेरे आंगना, माखन मिश्री तुझे खिलाऊं और झुलाऊं पालना, और झुलाऊं पालना। मैं तो अर्जी कर सकती हूँ, आगे मर्जी तेरी है। आना है तो आ सवरिया, फिर करे क्यों देरी है। मुरली किया तान सुनाना, चाल न टेढ़ी चालना, माखन मिश्री तुझे खिलाऊं और झुलाऊं पालना, और झुलाऊं पालना।
अरे वाह!
So,
बहुत खूबसूरत, बहुत खूबसूरत, बहुत।
thank you, Sonia. Your story actually reminds me of a very short little story that I want to share. It's an experiential mindfulness story about anger. And so beautifully, Krishna talks about this emotion to the Pandavas. So, just if you can allow me to share this snippet again from Mahabharata, which of course goes back many, many years, in the different yuga, actually. It was once that Krishna and the five Pandavas, the brothers, went hunting in the forest. By the time they had finished hunting, the sun had set and night was about to fall. They realized that they cannot return to their kingdom and decided to spend the night in the forest itself. Walking, they saw a cave ahead of them, and it was agreed that each person would stand guard for 2 hours while the others slept inside the cave. The youngest brother, Sahadev, was given the first slot. He stood at the entrance of the cave holding all his weapons aloft, while others slept inside. After an hour or hour and a half, just as his 2 hour vigil was coming to an end, Sahadev suddenly noticed a dwarf coming towards him from the forest. Stop, said Sahadev. Who are you? What are you Where are you going? The dwarf said, You you can see that I'm a tiny dwarf. I want to fight you, said the dwarf. Sahadev thought, here is a 1.5 foot tall dwarf, and here I am, a 6 footer. I shall definitely win with no difficulty at all. And he said, bring it on. Therefore, for the sake of entertainment, he agreed to fight the dwarf. However, he was no ordinary dwarf, as you have guessed, my friends. He defeated Sahadev, tied him up with a rope, left him on the ground, and went away. A little later, Nakul woke up. Not finding Sahadev, he called out, and he heard a faint voice which said, I'm here. Nakul found his brother in a state in which the dwarf had left him. Who did this to you? He asked. Sahadev could not bring himself to say that he had lost his battle to a small dwarf. So he replied, I found this rope and I was tying myself up and resting on the ground. Nakul said, okay, brother, why don't you go and rest now? I will keep watch. Now, towards the end of Nakul's vigil, again the dwarf appeared, and the same sequence repeated. Next was Arjun's turn. He also found Nakul lying on the ground, tied up with a rope. All the brothers faced the same situation, including Bhima and Yudhishthira. Finally, it was Krishna's turn. He found Yudhishthira on the ground. Now, Yudhishthira was the one who always spoke the truth. So he told Krishna the whole story. I don't understand what happened, Krishna, he said. When my turn was, I was just about to finish, a tiny dwarf appeared from nowhere and said, I want to wrestle with you. When we started wrestling, something strange happened. The more I fought, the bigger the dwarf became until he was a huge giant, and I was like a small child before him. He easily caught hold of me, threw me on the ground, and tied me up. I'm unable to understand what kind of dwarf he was. Krishna smiled and said, never mind, you go, I will take care of him. So it was Krishna's turn to keep the night vigil. Just as dawn was about to break, Krishna saw the dwarf coming towards him. When the fellow was right before him, Krishna asked him, what brings you here? The dwarf replied, the same desire with which I came to your 5 friends and defeated them. I want to fight with you, said the dwarf. Krishna prepared himself, and the two began to fight. Soon the dwarf started increasing in size. Krishna understood the matter. He threw down his weapons, sat down quietly, and said to the dwarf, you can hit me, go ahead. At this, the dwarf's size started reducing, and Krishna simply watched. Finally, when the dwarf became very small, tiny, Krishna picked him up and tied him in his pitambar, that is Krishna's customary yellow garment, and sat down. When all the others brothers, the Pandavas, woke up and came out, they asked Krishna, "Did someone come while you stood guard?" Krishna said, "Yes, yes, a tiny dwarf came." The brothers asked, "So how did you handle him?" Krishna replied, "I did nothing. Here he is, tied up in my pitambar." Surprised, the Pandavas asked, "What is the meaning of this, Krishna? When we fought, he became bigger and bigger, and you have him tied up in your pitambar. That is a miracle. Strange." Krishna then revealed who the dwarf was. It was anger. He said, "Anger assumed the form of a dwarf and fought with you all. The more you fight with anger, it only becomes bigger, confronting you until it becomes huge and completely overpowers you and binds you up." Yudhishthira, the wise one, said, "The matter is clear now, Krishna. You were the only one who recognized him. And when we don't retaliate, when we don't react, he becomes tiny and insignificant." This story, my friends, signifies that negativities will always be there in life. If you try to overpower them, you will end up in a fight which you are bound to lose. And as the more you struggle, the stronger your adversary becomes. Therefore, simply ignore them and focus on adapting positive qualities, attitude, actions, and behavior in your life. The negativities will then get muted and then disappear on their own. So, this is another gem of a story about anger and how to manage anger, which Krishna, the all pervasive, all knowing, imparts to the Pandavas. Thank you, Sonia.
Wow. No, wow, wonderful. I think this is again wonderful story, and as humans, we can use it wherever, in whichever way one can. And I totally believe that when you share the story, it becomes like as if you're sharing a gift. So thank you so much, Usha, for sharing this wonderful gift with all the listeners, all the viewers. I know sometimes they don't come live, and they listen at their ease, and they listen in their convenient time. But I'm sure they're going to enjoy the gifts that we have shared with them, and will use in whichever way they would want to. And I think we have really spent good enough time. But I would like to end with this beautiful. You can call it a song or a bhajan. And I loved that Marwadi song that you shared, and you are blessed with a wonderful voice, Usha. When you sing, it's like it it feels as if you're in a musical recital. I don't intend to match that voice, but yes, I'm inspired and motivated by your song to actually give this nice bhajan which devotees like to pay as a tribute to Krishna. And it's a bit of Haryanvi boli, and I might just tell one or two words. So it goes something like this. मन चाकर राखो जी, मन चाकर राखो जी. Mane means mujhe. Chakar means knocker. So a devotee is saying to Lord Krishna that make me your servant, and says this. मन चाकर राखो जी, चाकर राखो, चाकर राखो, चाकर राखो, चाकर राखो. मन चाकर राखो जी, चाकर रहसु भाग लगासु, नित उठ दर्शन पासु. चाकर रहसु भाग लगासु, नित उठ दर्शन पासु. वृंदावन की कुंज गली में, वृंदावन की कुंज गली में, तेरी लीला गासु. मन चाकर राखो जी, मन चाकर राखो जी. Well, thank you so much, Usha. Once again, I enjoyed a lot sharing these nice stories that are there with me. I heard them from my parents, my father, my mother, and I'm sure they must have heard these stories from their parents. And I'm so glad that I could share them back today at Storytellers Cafe with you. And once again, thank you so much for having me here to celebrate Janmashtami.
Thank you, Sonia, for that lilting melody. It was truly lilting and melodious. And Sonia, like you did mention in the beginning, all those who missed or came in late, as you know, Storytellers Cafe is very much archived on Bharat FM. On the Facebook page, you could just go in the listings, or on Storytellers Cafe. All that you have to, on YouTube, I'm sorry, all that you have to do is type Storytellers Cafe Janmashtami special with Sonia Bareja, and you can retrieve this. Please share this episode with your friends and relatives and children, because the idea is to share stories. Stories are meant to travel. That's the beauty of stories. They are meant to travel, and feel free to retell these stories and sing the songs. Many of you are wonderful singers, I know. And please do that. And we would love to hear from you. Drop your comments. The last couple of episodes, you have been sending us your valuable comments. Do drop in. uh, I would love to hear from you, as well as Sonia. Even Bharat FM also values your comments. We would love to listen to you, and have a wonderful Janmashtami. Go ahead and spread joy and love. Festivals are all about meeting, greeting, and now that the pandemic is kind of over, and you can definitely go out and meet your family and friends, just go out and celebrate this year's Janmashtami. And I'm so happy, Sonia, that I got to celebrate this with you in Lisbon. So
Yes, thank
I
you.
hope you
Thank you,
share
Usha.
it with all your friends in
Yes.
Lisbon and in Europe. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I'm definitely going to share this wonderful story marathon that both of us did with everybody here, which is Indian community and non-Indian community of expats. And I'm sure they're going to really love it, and they're going to enjoy the stories as much as we have enjoyed sharing them.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Storytellers Cafe. I'm your host, Usha Venkatraman, and our guest tonight is Sonia Bareja from Lisbon, Portugal. So I will see you soon with yet another guest, this time from the beautiful country, Wales, and then we move on to New Zealand. So I'm really happy at the way Storytellers Cafe is definitely traveling across the globe. Sonia, it's exciting. And then I'm getting to unearth storytellers from all over the world and visiting such exotic locations. So it's wonderful. The perfect setting for a story. What do you say?
Of course, yes, Usha. And I think it's the intent and the purity in the desire with which you carry forward Storytellers Cafe, and look at the consistency and the regularity with which you have, you are in the third season of your program. I think that's commendable because, during pandemic, a lot of people opened their shows and then they shut it. But the regularity of your program also speaks volume and speaks about the pure intent and the desire of your love and passion for the stories that you want to spread, and nothing else. There is no other intent. So it's just the passion and the purity that really takes the program forward.
Thank you, Sonia. With such encouraging words, we close our session, this podcast. Like I said, please go back to the archives, retrieve it, share it with your family and friends, and have a great Janmashtami while I play the Bharat FM jingle as we close this episode. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Usha. Thank you.
This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.